Anger's remorse. This is the one. But it's gone. Cynthia has the record. She will tell me where to find it. Anger's remorse is missing. Who took it?
Our shame becomes the pale horse. Oh, Tor. Bro. Tor's love for you is in that song. That's why Cynthia wants it, to ruin him. She made Tor lust after her. We fought one scratching hag years ago. Now he's fallen for another, and we might lose him for good. One less Anderson.
That isn't going to happen. Cynthia has Tor in the overlap. Anger's remorse is the key to get there. I need to make Cynthia reveal its location. Cynthia targeted Tor specifically. Why him?
Deal with the nasty Anderson fellow. His heart was broken. Cancelled. Leaks started appearing. It was too late. Shut her out of her own case.
The dark presence is using Cynthia to keep me from talking to Tor. Where is Anger's remorse now?
Kitty is a young girl in love. A rock and roll please it. The shadows to come alive. A gift. An on-off death wish.
She has the record. I can get it out of her. Anger's remorse. Where is it, Cynthia?
Drowned beneath dark water. Too many hands. The bathroom frightened her. Cut short. She screamed. An old folks care home.
The Anger's remorse record is in Cynthia's room. In her bathtub.
Drowned beneath dark water. Too many hands. The bathroom frightened her. Cut short. She screamed. An old folks care home. Deal with the nasty Anderson fellow. His heart was broken.
A bathtub, a pond, a lake. There's a theme here. Do you know anything about the cult of the tree?
Yes, yes. He who reaches for a spruce tree will stumble into a juniper. Bloom was one of them. He has kicked empty. I wouldn't want to be in his shoes. But I like his shoes.
How did you know Blum was part of the cult?
Oh, Fox never runs out of tricks. He's a crazy man, and he will show his ways. Bloom like to talk.
Gale Barrows stared at his chest x-ray. It was in his left lung. It felt like a black hole. Saga jabbed the selector on the jukebox. The missing record in its place. Saga couldn't have found it without Odin's help. Standing there, Saga felt exposed, expecting the shadows to come alive. The needle crackled on the vinyl. The song swelled. Odin had said it was written for her and her mother. Her grandfather's apology. The lamentation of an old man. His heart was broken, sinking into darkness. Odin had said that the song would be a way to know Tor, a way to find him. A light bloomed in through the garden window. That's where Tor had vanished into the pond. Saga knew what she had to do.
Key fob's no good without power.
No use crying in the dark place. What has been has gone. But trouble doesn't look like this. You can go to the basement and check the generator. But look out. You can never know in which tree the devil sits.
The basement. Thanks.
Odin Anderson stirred in his bed, his vision hazy, smudged. He felt weighted down by an ocean of dark water. Through the haze, he made out Saga. Odin felt useless. He wished he could tell Saga how his silly faces made her smile when she was young. Too young to remember. Odin used to joke that Tor was her grandfather, but he was the Allfather. He smiled at the memory. Odin was the kinder of the Anderson brothers. Tor lacked patience, more volatile. The brothers fought a lot, but they were inseparable. Now Tor was missing, dragged into darkness. Odin could feel it. Time was running out for both of them.
Welcome to the emergency muster point.
You all should stay out here a while. Until it's safe.
I'm happy to get out of that house. Isn't it strange that I've lived in Bright Falls my whole life and I can't remember this building?
The house has always been here, Norman. Remember when that poor Nora girl drowned in the bunker? Those Andersons got it so cheap because it's haunted. You get what you pay for.
Is there anyone who didn't show up?
A few. Artie, Gil, Cynthia.
If they aren't here by now, then they aren't coming. It's important to be punctual. On that topic, I'd like to point out that our nightly decaf coffee service is almost half an hour behind schedule.
Have any of you noticed anything odd about Ms. Weaver?
Just that Tor won't leave the poor woman alone. That brute wants one thing, and one thing only.
Cynthia's gotten downright bossy. Take a swim in the pond, Norman. Drink some water, Norman. Well, no one tells Norman MacDonald what to do.
Mandy May, are you all right? You're bleeding.
Oh, how did that happen?
Oh, no, Mandy May. Oh, no!
Oh, don't be a crybaby, Norman. It's nothing. I just poked my finger knitting this monster of a blanket.
Hello there. Are you Pat Maine from the radio?
That's me. And you're the federal agent everyone's been talking about. Would you have time for an interview at some point?
Oh, sorry. I'm kind of in a hurry right now. Love your show, though. Very informative.
Thank you. Never compromise on quality. That's my motto. We'd be happy to have you on the show anytime, me and my listeners.
It sure is a beautiful night, huh, May? Nice and, stormy.
Don't go getting any ideas, Norman. This is the designated muster point, not a date.
I need to get the power back on. Key fob's no good without power.
Wheeler used to be the agent of a manic-depressive celebrity writer, Alan Wake. Wake had various addictions on his back, an on-off death wish. Wheeler had seen a thing or two. Wheeler paid a lot of money for a good shrink. Got himself convinced that all the nightmares he'd seen leading up to Wake drowning himself were just his imagination. PTSD. Now we had pills to keep the shadows from his sleep. But the Andersons were something else. The nightmares were starting to creep in again. Or maybe it was the drugs in the air. Wheeler hoped it was the drugs. The Andersons were so old. Vampires. After every gig and the party that followed, it took them weeks to bounce back. And they never did completely. Each time Wheeler expected them to croak.
Can't be opened on this side. Fuse is blown. Maybe there are spares nearby. It doesn't budge.
Emmett Elwood had had enough. All his life, he'd been surrounded by the same small-minded, impolite, ignorant people in town. Their endless gossip, their nose-picking, chewing food with their mouths open, not washing their hands after visiting the restroom, and touching things. Touching everything. The world was going to hell. He'd watched day after day how all the nice things in life in Bright Falls were spoiled and ruined forever. There would be a just and terrible reckoning. Emmett had imagined many times how he'd make them pay. He had lovingly tended his anger, made it grow hotter. It was out in the open now. Ugly and slobbering, they reached at him with their unwashed hands. He'd beat them down, beat them until they no longer moved. And then he'd wash his hands with a strong antibacterial disinfectant.
power's off.
Cynthia Weaver had always kept her lantern close. Someone in the bathroom with her. In the dark. Dark water pressed itself into her. She screamed. Cynthia Weaver hated being old. She'd been a doer, a fighter. Now the bathroom frightened her, afraid she'd break her hip, like Norman. Cynthia had always kept her lantern close, to hold the darkness at bay. "Oh dear, my lantern. I think I've lost it," Cynthia said. "This will put a smile back on your face, my dear," a voice said. A man's voice. Someone in the bathroom with her. In the dark. The light bulb had blown. She meant to replace it days ago. How could she forget? She had slipped getting out of the tub. She lay in the tub now. She lifted her hand. It looked wrong. Too many hands. In a black void with no sense of up or down, she was underwater. A dark shape pushed her down. Dark water pressed itself into her. She screamed. It came out in bubbles.
A fuse. Could come in handy. There. Power's back on.
Is this something they watch on movie night? That looks just like Casey. What the hell is going on?
Into darkness.
Shit. Careful, Saga.
It was too late. She was underwater. The nightmares were starting to creep in.
A dam? Was Cynthia into civil engineering? power station. Everyone needs a hobby, I guess. A lantern. Was Cynthia using it for protection? Did she know about the dark presence? I feel like I'm missing some context here. I'm guessing the woman in this photograph was not Cynthia's favorite. Tor's a romantic, huh? The dark presence uses people's memories, their fears to corrupt them. Cynthia was close to someone named Thomas Zane. Who is he?
Tom was back. Tom had enemies. In a fancy hotel. Just his imagination. The nightmare started to creep in. Cynthia Weaver smiled.
An old flame. Maybe Tom was taken.
Cynthia would deal with the nasty Anderson fellow, Tor, always poking people with his hammer. He had it coming. Cynthia Weaver smiled. Lost without her lantern? Nonsense. Cynthia felt as giddy as a young girl in love. Cynthia had loved Thomas Zane. Tom only had eyes for Barbara. Barbara was bad news. Tom had seen it in the end. Cynthia had been there to comfort him. And when he left, Cynthia waited. Years of waiting. Now Tom had come back to her. They'd be together now. See the world. She'd always dreamed of seeing New York. They were there now in a fancy hotel. She drew a bath. She would become like Barbara. No, better. She sank into dark water. Into Tom. Tom had enemies plotting against him. Cynthia would deal with the nasty Anderson fellow, Tor, always poking people with his hammer. He had it coming. Anything for Tom.
Tor is not becoming a Taken, but Cynthia is definitely corrupting him. Trying to keep him away from me? Anger's Remorse by Old Gods of Asgard. I need to play it in the jukebox.
The dark water pressed itself into her.